We are going to be back at the hour of 8 o'clock, and this is a special morning edition. If you've just joined us, it's going to be 2 hours long instead of a regular hour. And my guest today is a man who has discovered what now is believed even by the Turkish government over in near Mount Ararat is the Ark. And we have a little model here of it that Ron Wyatt brought. He has been called the Indiana Jones of modern day. And what do you think about that, Ron?
Well, we have had some adventures. Some of them have been rather dangerous and spooky, but I don't really think about myself at all. I'm, shall we say, just thrilled to death to be working with these things. Mm-hmm. And it you know, I've been called some other things too that were a bit less flattering by some folks. When it comes to Noah's Ark, there was some stories went around, you know, about folks seeing it. As a matter of fact, a fellow was starting up a magazine out in Los Angeles, and he made up the whole story of this Russian pilot that saw the boat and the regiment of engineers from the Tsar's Russia that went out and investigated it and all of that. He made this up, you know, just, it was a novel. Strictly, and we all, Ark hunters, have letters from him apologizing for that fact. But these things stick in people's minds. And so when people see this, they say, well, that's not barge shaped, so that can't be Noah's Ark. But anyway, we have had some adventures, and so I guess along those lines, I would prefer being called Tennessee Wyatt rather than Indiana Jones.
Tennessee Wyatt, okay, Tennessee Wyatt.
Yeah, whatever.
Okay, he was, Ron was on the cover of Nashville Magazine several months ago, and it says, "In Search of Noah's Ark." It looks like something out of the Ark of the, what is it, Raiders of the Lost Ark movie, and also his book, Discovered Noah's Ark, has kind of that feel to it. Your publishers tend to think that that's kind of who you are, and well, I don't know. I think you've had some wonderful experiences. I want to talk about the one that I remember.
Okay.
When I met you 8 years ago, we sat and talked about the Ark of the Covenant. Are you a prophet, Ron? Do you think of yourself as a prophet?
Well, my wife would say, she makes a little joke about this. She says, I've been strictly non-profit ever since she's known me.
You've been married
speaking
about 4 years.
Right, about the financial strain of doing this research. Seriously, anybody, say for example, the weatherman on television, back when they were talking from the viewpoint of calling these people prophets, they would be a weather prophet. So anybody that makes any comments about a future event, by definition, is a prophet. So that would cover everybody. You know, like some ladies say, if you don't do this, that, and the other, I'm going to do such and such. Well, she's a prophetess.
She's predicting the future.
Right, and whether she actually does it or not tells you whether she was a false prophetess or accurate. And so we do deal with things that will have a tremendous impact on the future. And we do have a close relationship with God, because these things are objects that He has preserved from each time He intervened into the, shall we say, human history, that He has preserved from each time He intervened into the, shall we say, human history in a supernatural manner. You remember He destroyed the earth with the flood because the human race had gotten so wicked that I suppose they were on the verge of self-destruct. And then later, Sodom and Gomorrah, they got to be such sinful individuals that He burned the city. And so we have been able to find and document that. And then, of of course, the Red Sea crossing, the storage silos for the grain that Joseph collected over the 7 years of plenty. We're currently working on that.
How do you find time to do all these finds? I mean, how often do you get out to these sites?
I've been to the Middle East over 40 times. Doesn't speak very highly of my efficiency, but anyway, we work on this. We sit down, we pray about this, and I try to put myself in the place of the person that's watching the results of our work. And again, I am a very critical individual. And so we try to document it from that point of view so that the person seeing it has every reason to know that these things are facts or they're real objects. Okay. Now, I think in archaeology, one of my professors told me, and the whole class, he says, you do not excavate a site just to see what's there. You decide ahead of time what you want to be there, and you make it happen. Well, that's not science.
Is that cheating? That doesn't sound right to me.
Is pathetic, because, you know, the whole object, I would think, of scientific investigation is to find out how things work or what was there. But this is what they tell you. And so, anyway, we try to give folks all of the evidence, and I feel that after all the risk and expense and time that I have invested in this, that gives me the right to give my opinion of what I think the significance of all of this is, but I feel obliged to provide all of the raw data so that other people can review it and think about it, pray about it, and say, well, you know,
decide for themselves,
exactly,
what they believe. Now, this Ark of the Covenant, that is the major find, I believe, in all the Bible. That is God's mercy seat. That is God's Ark.
Right. And
you believe you found it.
I do.
And I know
yes.
you can't go very far with this conversation because you've been asked not to by Israel and
the people I work with in Israel. The Middle East has been a very volatile area. It doesn't take a lot to get folks killed over there. And so in order to continue my work, I have been asked not to discuss any more than we have already shared until we're finished. Now, at such a time as when we have this finished, then we'll be able to show video of all of the objects from Solomon's temple that are not listed in 2 Kings, the 25th chapter, and Ezra, the first 2 chapters.
Okay.
And also there's some dedicated things. You know, I imagine there's a lot of folks in your audience that would like to see Goliath's sword, for example. Well, that was one of the dedicated objects, and it didn't get carried off to Babylon. And so anyway, there will be, hopefully by this time next year, people can see all of this for themselves, and they can go, if they have the time and money to do so, and take a look at the tables of stone that God wrote the 10 Commandments on themselves.
Now, that
it
was
will be
in
on
the Ark.
public display. That's correct. Yes.
Bless your heart. Now, I wanted, when we met, you told me about taking a little Arab guide into a place that evidently the Lord pointed out to you, because you don't really feel like you're just a whole lot smarter than everybody else. I know that from you, Ron, and I know that you feel that the Lord's just letting you kind of notice stuff.
Yes.
And
if I were smart, I'd be rich.
Okay.
I am just thrilled out of my skull to be working on these things, and I get asked quite often, you know, why I think God gave me this privilege, and the Bible states very simply that God uses the simple things. And but I can certainly live with the idea of being a simple person to get to do this. You know, it's an honor and a privilege. And so I don't, once again, I don't even think of myself. I think of all this stuff. Why should I think of Ron Wyatt? You know, I'm just a average individual, and there's nothing special. The only thing special about me is that Christ died for me, and he did that for everybody.
But you believe that now it would have been pretty wonderful. I mean, it would be great if 8 different people found 8 great finds, God's
Right.
finds. But why did you get picked? And you really believe you are chosen to have found these 8 finds. Why would God choose one man to find them?
Well, he says there in the verse for the day, he says, "This once I will show them that my name is the Lord." Now, down through history, there's been Lord Baal, Lord Vishnu, Lord Buddha, and so on and so on. So God says, "This once I will show them that my name is the Lord." And all of these things that he has preserved and kept hidden away until a point in history when we have satellite relays for our television broadcasts and the ability to translate into everybody's language.
And excavate and
Right.
X-ray and
All of these
horoscope
things
and,
so that the world can see that he has been there all along and that he is God and has intervened. And part of that is just taking some simple individual and showing all of this stuff to them so that anybody that's watching knows for a fact that it wasn't that individual's smarts or skills or anything that brought all this about. I mean, no one human being could possibly do all of this stuff. And the reason I believe it's real is because we have all of it on video and artifacts that, shall we say, are in safekeeping that people can see that prove the point.
Okay. We're going to take a break here, and I'm going to take a deep breath. This is exciting for me. I love listening about this, and I wish I had been able to stay up 3 days before we actually got you in here and studied all this story over and over again. But we're going to go to a break and come back, and we've got another, forever to go. Another hour and 15 minutes.
Okay.
We'll get into some more. Ron, you were recently held hostage. It was all over the newspaper that you were a hostage over it. Was it in Turkey?
Yes, it was.
And how'd that happen?
Well, there's some political problems in Turkey like there is in, almost any country in the world. We have been extremely blessed here in America that while there's some political differences, things have not gotten violent. I think we did see a display in Los Angeles that shows it can happen very quickly. But in Turkey, there's a group that would like to take a part of Turkey and turn it into their homeland or whatever. And these individuals are looking for publicity. And taking Western hostages is one of the means that they perceive to be effective in getting attention. And we were out there going to do some work on Noah's Ark, and these people, I am told by the Turkish security people, have sympathizers or cooperators that have access to the computers. For example, you go into any country, they put you on the computer as a tourist or whatever your status you are. In visiting their country, this helps them keep track of you, keep a record of what's going on. So we were there, and the word got around, and these people set up a roadblock and caught us and took us out in the mountains and, shall we say, wore me out. I'm 59 years old. I was 58 then, but a year doesn't make that much difference. And we were forced to travel through the mountains at the rate of speed that these young gorillas could travel.
Now, did they hit you or do any physical abuse?